Hello and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey and I hope you're having a great Friday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. I am truly taking my own coaching advice and I am starting small, working on just building the habit, and then obviously from there we can extend and grow with time. And what I'm talking about is with the podcast length of episodes. So something you might notice is they're a little bit shorter in length, and really I want to obviously provide a lot of value, still show up every single Friday, but sometimes it's just not quite as easy as I think it's going to be. So just got Oliver down for bed. I'm sitting here to record a quick episode for you guys that's going to be full of value if you're in your first trimester, and even if you're not and you hope to be one day, or you know somebody who is. Really valuable information and something to share with those friends if they are expecting and maybe they're having some of that morning sickness or all day long sickness. This would be a good episode to send their way. So if you're new here, hello, hi, I'm Bailey. I'm a functional nutritionist who specializes in preconception health and also supporting women throughout their lifespan. But I also work a lot with women, not just to prepare their body for pregnancy, but to grow a strong and well-supported body, honestly, so that during pregnancy they feel really, really good. And then that leads into obviously how they feel postpartum. Now, there is that sweet window where I am working with moms who are obviously currently expecting, and they're maybe in that first trimester phase. I had 4 clients announce their pregnancies in the month of July, which in itself is just truly incredible. As someone who works with women who are either struggling to conceive or have been trying to conceive for a while, or maybe they just aren't quite sure if their body is capable of doing this. There's a lot of doubt, limiting beliefs, but also just physical limitations that we can feel sometimes, or diagnoses that we've had in the past that can at least make us believe that pregnancy is going to be hard to accomplish. So because I'm in the midst of having these conversations, I wanted to just get on the podcast and kind of talk about what I recommend to clients in their first trimester. Now, I want to back up because I think it's also helpful to give my own experience with my first pregnancy. I had Oliver back in March of 2025. But when I got pregnant, I really thought that I would feel totally fine. I had done a lot to support my body. I obviously would do things differently now, just knowing what I know. However, I think oftentimes we talk about all these healthy things that you can do to feel amazing, and we don't always talk about the real, brutally honest aspects of our own pregnancies that maybe weren't picture perfect, right? Maybe it wasn't the most healthy decision that I made to eat, but at the same time, I fueled my body and gave it what it needed in that moment. So I want to give you a little bit of an explanation from my point of view. So like I said, I got pregnant in late June, early July. Honestly, mid-July is when I started to feel really not great. I would say at this point, just because I didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know, I for sure was not eating enough when I did get pregnant. I felt like I had a really good relationship with food, was just probably under eating calorie-wise, again, knowing what I know. And I would say weeks 5 through, not even 5, probably 7 through 9 were really rough for me. And I remember being in that period of time and thinking, if this is my entire pregnancy, I have no idea how I'm going to survive it. Outside of that, I also think it's so hard because you're not really telling a lot of people. So you feel like trash and you're supposed to act like you don't feel bad. I remember I got on a coaching call. It was a group coaching session that I was leading, and my mom was actually on the call. And when we got off and she was like, oh my gosh, you looked like you didn't feel good. You looked terrible. I'm like, do you think anybody else noticed? Which, I mean, if you don't know if somebody is pregnant or if they're wanting to announce their pregnancy, like it is hard to kind of tell, like, are they pregnant? Do they just not feel good? What's going on? Anyway, so that was me. I literally felt green. I was also running at this time. So my dad and I would try to run about 4 miles every Sunday. So it was just one time a week. But up until 20 weeks, I actually kept running. But the first week, I remember announcing my pregnancy to my family at like 4.5, 5 weeks. And that next Sunday when we ran, I came home and I just threw up all over. And I was like, I just feel so terrible and I don't know what to do about this. And the whole day I felt terrible. So I realized if I started my day with some sort of fuel, so that for me, that was typically like a protein shake. Even if I had like half of it, I would feel totally fine. And then I would do electrolytes after. That really helped me when I was running. However, that constant nausea was definitely still there. So again, I had read all the things like drink lemon ginger tea or take those ginger chews or wear an acupuncture band or eat breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up and or eat breakfast right away when you wake up. Make sure your blood sugar is balanced, yada, yada. I had really thought that I tried everything. Now, again, I would do things differently. However, in that moment, I was like, I'm literally doing as much as I can and everything I can. And I remember having many days where I slept for like 14 hours. I say all of this to remind you that the purpose of supporting our preconception health is ultimately pregnancy, right? Obviously, that's the goal. However, what I also want you to know is that when we prepare our body well, when we eat enough, when we meet nutrient deficiencies, when we meet mineral deficiencies, we can go those 2, 3, 4+ weeks in pregnancy feeling sick and maybe not eating a lot of food because we have built our body up to withstand that stress, right? So if we have adequate B6 and zinc and folate and vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin A, iron, right? All those things, right? I could rattle them off. When we have built our body and honestly our cellular health up to be able to withstand stress, I would encourage you not to stress about the worst case scenario here, right? Like don't believe like, oh, my baby, I'm failing them. I'm not doing everything I could be, because I had a lot of those same thoughts, right? Of I am exhausted. I am sleeping all the time. I slept 14 hours one day and I'm like, this is not normal. Like, is there something wrong with me? And honestly, if you can rest as much as you possibly can because your body is just going through it, right? Your body is changing. It's growing. It's literally creating a human being cell by cell. So we have to think about that and think about how we can give ourselves grace in the process. I say all of this again because I'm going to tell you all these things you can do in your first trimester. If you are so tired that you can't even function, then you need to sleep. And that is number one priority. Or if you feel, I don't even know, an example, I'm just saying, like, don't get so down on yourself if it is not picture perfect, you feel wonderful, you're still running and working out your entire first trimester. If that's not happening, you are not failing your pregnancy. Okay, there is always time for you to get back into that, for you to get back to baseline, back to where you were before you felt nauseous. And it's definitely possible. Something that I wish, and maybe people did tell me, and honestly, I don't know if it means a lot coming from someone else, but for most people, those 2, 3, 4 weeks of nausea in the first trimester do not last your entire pregnancy. Okay, now obviously there are people where they feel not great their whole pregnancy, no matter what they do. I truly feel so just empathetic towards those people. And if that was you during one of your pregnancies, I feel for you because I cannot physically imagine feeling that way for longer than I did, right? Like that is a different level of just care for your body and different level of sacrifice for your body. So pregnancy is obviously a beautiful, wonderful thing. And it's pretty remarkable that we're able to do that as women, right? I think sometimes it can be like, oh, I feel so sick. Why am I doing this? There can be a lot of negative thoughts around it. But for me, it really helped on the mindset side of things to give myself those affirmations of like, your body's capable of doing this. Your body is strong. Your body is well supported. Your body was designed by God to do this, right? Like write those things down, remind yourself, put them where you see them, because it can be hard to get through those weeks when you don't feel good. So again, I wanted to give you that. And I wanted to also tell you, like, what did I eat when I didn't feel great? Because it was not always a perfectly balanced plate that was super colorful and had all the micronutrients and yada, 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 right? Because sometimes that was not happening. Sometimes I just wanted to sleep and I did not want to make a gourmet meal for myself. and that's okay, all right? But that was not long term. That was when I didn't feel good. So things that I gravitated towards, and I want to talk a little bit about cravings because this definitely plays in here, and this is if you're pregnant or not. Typically our cravings, I would say, really do communicate with us. Like, I guess, how am I trying to say that? Our body communicates to us through cravings, okay? So I always tell myself if I'm having a salty craving, I'm probably lacking minerals, right? So I need to either identify what those minerals are, or I'll do an electrolyte packet and see where I'm at, see how I'm feeling. Or if I'm really having an intense sweet craving, I don't take that as, oh, my body needs sugar. I take that as a sign that blood sugar needs support, right? Because I'm getting that jolt of like, I really want something sweet. Let me stabilize blood sugar first. And then if I still want something sweet, I'm going to enjoy that, right? So like after supper, every night, I still will want something sweet. It's less of like a craving and more of just like a desire. I just want to have a sweet treat, where that's different than that intense sweet craving. Okay, so how I always responded during pregnancy and even now, and what I tell clients to do, combat that with something rich in protein. So if that is a beef stick, a cheese stick, some Greek yogurt, some nuts, something rich in protein is what you want to support the body with. From there, also pairing that with a source of fiber. So I would say fiber in the form of a fresh or frozen or steamed, obviously, or cooked fruit or vegetable, okay? That's how we support that sugary craving. If you notice, okay, I still really want something sweet, then maybe your body does need the energy from sugar, okay? So that is how you can kind of assess your cravings. But for me, no matter how much I drank water or minerals or electrolytes, I had such a craving for the Trader Joe's kettle cooked sea salt and olive oil chips and cottage cheese, specifically the Good Culture lactose-free cottage cheese. At one point, we had 7 containers in the fridge, and that was gone in a week and a half. If that doesn't tell you what I was eating, okay? I was fiending for some lactose-free cottage cheese and those chips. Something about, I don't know, the cold with the crunch and the salt, it was just everything that I needed and more. So that, again, was probably 2 weeks. And then after that, I was like, I really don't want cottage cheese. But it's normal to have aversions to certain foods. So I have had clients tell me I have aversions to meat. I have aversions, for me specifically, it was eggs. Aversions to fruits or vegetables. That is very normal to have those things that just do not sound good. For me, it was like broccoli and eggs and apples, and bananas. I just could not, unless they were in something. So if that tells you anything, I did not always eat perfectly. Sometimes you just find the healthier swaps for things that you're craving, right? Or maybe you don't. I would say don't always, I'm really craving some sweet and sour Skittles. I'm going to eat those every single day, all day long, and not eat protein, right? To me, that's unacceptable. I know that sounds harsh, but we have to think about, yes, we have to have grace with our body, but also you are building another human, right? So what do you want the structure to be? Do you want it to be your sweet and sour Skittles, or do you want it to be a protein shake that has orange juice in it? Because you obviously, if you're craving something sweet or sour, typically sour, you need vitamin C. Again, that's another kind of shortcut too for assessing cravings, things that you want. You want the sweet, tart, you probably need vitamin C. Things like that just are really great ways, and there's so many more that I talk through with clients when we enter into that first trimester, second trimester conversation. Not a lot in preconception prep because we're just looking whole body, and cravings do play a role there, but specifically during pregnancy, what are your cravings telling you? How can we use those to actually give our body what it needs and what it's asking for in a healthier way, right? So not the sour Skittles, do something sweet. Vitamin C, a cutie, kiwi, right, would be great options. So with assessing cravings, obviously you're going to crave McDonald's, maybe you're going to crave pizza. Again, understand, I'm really craving something salty. I should probably try to drink some water and make sure I have enough sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, and magnesium. And if I don't, then maybe I need to supplement with that, or I need to create some sort of food that has those things in it. Other things too, because I know sometimes supplements can make you feel worse during pregnancy. So transparently, again, I'm always transparent with you, but want to be very honest here. I actually did not take a prenatal during my pregnancy, and I really did not take one leading up to pregnancy. Do I recommend that for everyone? Absolutely not. Do I think that was the best route for me to go? I do, yes, in that moment. But I think postpartum, I needed to support my body a lot more than I probably would have if I would have consistently taken a prenatal. Okay. So I go back and forth there. I think if you're eating enough, you're focusing on the right things, and you can ensure with maybe a couple different blood tests and HTMA tests that you are actually getting enough without supplementing, go for it, right? Fair game. I don't think we all need that, but that first trimester for sure, I know there can be aversions to swallowing capsules. And honestly, my beef with supplements is I cannot swallow a capsule. I could swallow one, but I love the Fig prenatal. It is number one if you can use it, afford it, consistently get it for both you and your partner. 10 out of 10, my absolute favorite, hands down. However, that's 6 capsules and they kind of smell like fish. So you can imagine if you don't feel great, you're probably not going to want to take 6 capsules. I do know that you can actually open up the capsules and sprinkle them into food. But again, if the supplements are actually making you feel worse, then it's worth assessing. Or if you have any, if you have any thought that maybe your supplements are actually not making you feel the best, maybe remove them for a few days and see how you feel. Again, that's where it's going to be important that when you're able, you really focus on eating enough, getting the right things in if you're not able to take a supplement. And with that, I kind of want to transition into things and habits that I implemented that made the biggest difference for me. I honestly wish I would have nailed these things down so much earlier on, because I think I would have avoided a lot of the sick, nauseous feelings if I would have just done these things, okay? So I want to really quick while I'm on that conversation, as if you cannot take supplements, if they make you feel worse, I want you to think about how you can pack as many nutrients into a smoothie as possible. So what I mean by that is if you are having an aversion to kale or spinach or berries, or even swallowing a capsule, but you feel fine taking the supplements, you just can't swallow the capsule, open those up into a smoothie. What I did is I did do like a scoop of vanilla protein powder. I would do 1 frozen banana, some ice, a little bit of water or milk, and then some peanut butter. I'd blend that up. I would chug that literally as soon as my feet hit the floor in the morning. I was going to the kitchen to make the smoothie. Now, I wish I would have done this again so much earlier, because when you don't support blood sugar, so when you don't eat right away, typically, at least in my experience for most women I've worked alongside, when you don't eat right away in the morning, you are setting yourself up for failure for the rest of the day. And maybe it's not even intentional, but if you are not starting your day with a good source of protein, good source of fat, a little bit of fiber or a lot of fiber, you will probably, if you start to feel nauseous because you wait too long to eat breakfast, that nausea will probably last you all day, no matter how much you eat, to combat the nausea, okay? One of my least favorite phrases or quotes and they told me this when I went to the midwife clinic: keep some crackers by your bedside table so if you feel sick, you can have some of those. I'm not kidding. That is literally the worst possible advice you could ever get. So if you're a nurse and you're telling that to people, please think twice about it, okay? Just because the crackers are literally doing nothing for you nutritionally. They are not supporting blood sugar. They are something that maybe, yes, you're getting the crunch and you're getting the saltiness, but typically if you're having they always said have some saltines by you. Okay, so I'm supposed to have saltines and Sprite by me, and that's what I'm supposed to live on all day long because I always feel nauseous? That's not going to happen, and my body's not going to be supported. So we have to think, what is a good source of protein? Fat, fiber, carbs. How can I get that in? Starchy carbs specifically. So even a bowl of oatmeal, warm oatmeal, overnight oats. I really did a lot of the overnight oats or the yogurts, cottage cheese, the smoothies, things like that were pretty easy for me to get down, had kind of an interesting texture. I felt like that made a really big difference for me. And I'm telling you, as soon as I started that habit of waking up, getting something in my body right away, then drinking an electrolyte packet, that made a world of a difference. I can't even express to you. The second piece to kind of piggyback off of this is not ever letting yourself actually feel hungry, okay? Now, I know there is that phrase of like, when you get pregnant, you're eating for two. That is not accurate at all. Actually, during your first trimester, you are really supposed to meet your basal metabolic rate, but not a lot more than that. Into second trimester, maybe a couple hundred calories more, and then third trimester, 400 calories more, okay? And then when you deliver and if you're breastfeeding, you need anywhere from like 400 to 600 extra calories per day. Specifically, like calcium is super important during that time, which I'll do a whole episode on that at some point, is postpartum support. But that's kind of the calorie shift. But that doesn't mean that you restrict yourself and limit yourself to only your basal metabolic rate. So I really sometimes even hesitate telling that to clients, like the calorie differences, because I don't want them to become obsessive over not eating over their kind of allotted calorie range, right? Because when you eat, when you don't let yourself get hungry, yeah, you're probably eating more consistently, but most often you're not actually eating that many more calories. And if you are, it's because your body needs it. Okay. So I don't always say, I don't tell clients ever that it's a hard cutoff that you can only eat that amount of calories. And then you always need to add an extra 200 in second trimester, etc. However, I do think that's good information because it also kind of helps you. I do want to say self-control. I was kind of hesitating on what I want to say because I think some people go really crazy during pregnancy where and this is not shaming anybody for how they handle pregnancy or how much weight they gain, because obviously everybody's going to handle it differently. But I know I've had people tell me like, oh yeah, my sister-in-law had Taco Bell multiple times every single day her whole pregnancy, and she had like a very healthy baby. Yeah, of course, she had a healthy baby. The body knows what it needs to do. So I'm not saying that your pregnancy will not be healthy if you don't eat perfect. However, again, we're going back to how can you support your body not just before pregnancy, not just during pregnancy, but also have a really incredible postpartum experience. For me, I feel like what made a world of difference, that must be my favorite word because I think I've said that 600 times, but what made a really big difference for me was actually not feeling like I was not in my own body, if that makes sense, right? So not just being a glutton because I'm pregnant and using that as an excuse to eat whatever I want, whereas before pregnancy, I had maybe more discipline or self-control. I think sometimes we view pregnancy as that excuse to actually eat whatever we want, when in reality, that's a relationship with food that should have been corrected before pregnancy maybe occurred, right? Where if you view pregnancy as, oh, I can finally eat whatever I want with no limits, we really need to talk about your relationship with food. And I say that with so much love, but if that is how you're viewing pregnancy, we need to talk about okay, but before pregnancy, why did you feel so restricted on what you ate? Why were you not eating things that you enjoy? Why were you avoiding maybe fast food places? If you actually enjoy that food, let's make room for it. Let's not make it be an every single day or even a weekly occurrence, but we can make room for that, where we have to think about pregnancy is just an extension of us, right? Where we are doing the same things that hopefully we were doing before pregnancy, and we are just doing them with more intention. We are just doing them maybe in a different way, or maybe we're pausing them while we maybe have a couple weeks of nausea, and then we start those things back up when we do feel great. And so it's just something to remind you of we're not really eating for two. Yes, I don't want you to think, oh, I have to have this strict limit on how much I'm eating. But at the same time, eat in a way that feels good. Eat when and before, honestly, you even feel that hunger signal, because if you can get ahead of it, it makes such a big difference of just consistently eating at least every 2 to 3 hours, drinking a lot of water, and resting as much as you possibly can, honestly, is my advice. In addition to that, I kind of mentioned before the smoothie piece. That was also so big for me because I know there's so many symptoms that have become quote normal that are really not normal during pregnancy. I've had people tell me oh yeah, my doctor tells me I should just be so bloated now that I'm pregnant, or that all this acne is just so common, or that I should be out of breath all the time when I'm going up the stairs. And if you're experiencing that, again, you could have a totally normal, totally healthy pregnancy and be experiencing those things. But I really don't think that that's normal to have all these negative symptoms that come up during pregnancy. To me, that shows there's something underlying before you got pregnant that is now being emphasized during pregnancy. And maybe pregnancy is not the time for you to address those things. Maybe that's a postpartum situation that you deal with. But also understanding that there are a lot of things that are weird that are normal and that are actually normal, right? Like you wanting to sleep all the time, very, very normal. Your body's building another person. Now, you being chronically bloated and constipated your whole pregnancy, very not normal. A good way to get in more fiber, though, if you feel like you are struggling to eat enough fruits or vegetables, would be going back to the smoothies or doing cooked vegetables or cooked fruits, fruit stews. That is something I loved, like in the kind of fall to winter, was like cooked apples, cooked pears. Those things are just a little bit easier for your body to digest. Typically, if you're adding like a little maple syrup and cinnamon and some salt, maybe vanilla, you're getting kind of that sugar to give you some energy, but then also stabilizing that maybe with some warm oatmeal with a little bit of protein powder or Greek yogurt mixed in there, right? So many different options. That's why truly I think I have, sometimes it's like, this is the most fun job in the world, because I'm literally, what do you mean that I'm meeting with people to prepare their body for pregnancy? Like, that is so fun. I don't do so much work with people who have been trying to conceive for a while, although I do, because when I look at testing, I can most often identify what the problem is there, right? Or maybe why they're having some issues. However, when it's just people that are like very innocently going into it, like learning and absorbing as much as they can about preconception health, and then when they do get pregnant and we're looking at, how does eating change during pregnancy, first, second, third trimester, like it is just so fun because we can play around with things, we can experiment with things. Everything I do, no matter who I'm working with, if they're of the age to have a baby, it is pregnancy safe. So it's just fun to be able to kind of like guide women through that, both the mindset piece of it, but also the physical piece of that, obviously, as your body's changing and evolving, and there's different foods that you can pair together to make a really well-balanced plate. Or how can we brainstorm ways to get in fiber if you really don't want to eat broccoli right now? Like, what does that look like? So it's just so fun. And pregnancy is something I'm so passionate about. I really didn't ever see myself becoming this passionate about pregnancy, but I think there's just a lot of fear around food during pregnancy and fear around pregnancy in general with how your body's changing. I wanted to kind of wrap this up too with some thoughts around things to eat versus not eat during pregnancy, okay? Because just like how I believe the safest place for a woman to have a baby is where she feels the most comfortable, the safest food for you to eat during pregnancy is the foods that make you feel the most comfortable, okay? So I could give you a long list of things that I would say are totally fine versus aren't, but ultimately, if you believe still that raw milk is the worst of the worst and should be avoided during pregnancy, then avoid it. If you think raw milk is totally great, totally safe, you enjoy it, then drink it, okay? Obviously, there's going to be the ones like alcohol, drugs. We're not doing that during pregnancy. Hopefully not doing that a lot before pregnancy. If you're preparing your body, how I tell clients to prepare their body, we're removing alcohol, okay? It's kind of non-negotiable just because of the stress that it puts on your liver. However, obviously that goes into pregnancy. For me, I'll tell you what I did. I craved sushi like never before during pregnancy, and I ate a lot of sushi, raw fish, okay? Everywhere nurses are quaking in their boots. No offense, nurses. That's not everyone, but I just feel like that was so drilled into me when I met with them the first call. It was like, for the first appointment, it's like, well, don't eat any high mercury fish or unpasteurized this, that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I am going to disagree, because in my opinion, if my body's craving something, I'm looking at the underlying, like, why is it craving that? Okay, so really craving sushi. What do I know about first trimester? Your body needs substantial amounts of selenium and iodine. What am I going to find in fish, seaweed, selenium, and iodine? Okay, I knew my body needed that, so that's what I did. I enjoyed that and I loved it, and that is something that I will do time and time again. Or a deli meat sandwich if I got it from somewhere that I trusted. Great, doing it. I was not freaking out about raw deli meat, okay? If you look online at the list of salmonella, deli meat is definitely on the list. I think Boarhead meat, maybe that brand specifically, was on recently, and honestly for the past 2 years, for salmonella, but also were frozen waffles from Target. So if we really want to blame all these things as being the root of salmonella or unpasteurized things, well, okay, this waffle at Target also has salmonella. So we have to pick our battles, and you kind of have to decide for yourself, what are you going to consume? Again, I did raw egg yolks. I did raw milk. I did raw cheese. I did, like I said, seaweed. I did tuna. I did canned chicken. I did all these things that most people maybe would say, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. And that's fine. If that's you, if you don't feel comfortable, then don't do it. But there's just so many lies, I think, around that. And it's such a general statement that actually doesn't have a lot of research to back it up. The person telling you not to eat high mercury fish and to stay away from foods rich in salmonella probably can't even give you a laundry list of what those foods are. So think about who you're getting your nutrition advice from during pregnancy. If you are getting it from someone you like, know, and trust, awesome, do what they're telling you. If you're getting it from somebody who's just reading off of a piece of paper and telling you what to eat or not eat because it's what they're told to tell you, that's when you need to question if you're passionate about taking care of yourself and of the things you eat. That is where I questioned, and I reference often the Real Food for Pregnancy book. I actually built, because I read so many books during pregnancy around nutrition and how to take care of yourself, I actually created a guide myself. I can't even tell you how many hours on this guide, and I don't advertise it or talk about it enough because it's such a helpful resource, but few people probably even know that I have it. It's called the Well Nourished Mother Guide. It's for preconception, pregnancy, prep, and support, and it really walks you through, obviously like I did first trimester, it goes into second and third trimester, prenatals, different ways to hydrate, different foods to emphasize. It literally goes by each micronutrient that you have, or micronutrient deficiency, mineral deficiency you have during each trimester, typically due to the developmental stages of your child, and the things that you need to eat, the specific foods, the specific amounts of food. It is so granular, and I, like I said, put so many hours in it that I'll never make back the amount of time that I put into this guide. But I knew that women needed a resource that was not, I wouldn't say biased. I don't convince you of one way of eating or another, but it's truly just giving you the information so you can make the decision without buying 500 different books, okay? Or reading 6 different books like I did during my pregnancy. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. It's actually, I think, always linked in the description of each podcast episode, because you will come back to that time and time again. I definitely will reference that in the future because it takes everything I've learned, puts it into one place, and it's truly so value packed, and I need to share about it more because I think it would be so helpful for either you, somebody you know, maybe gift it to somebody you know that is currently expecting or wants to be in the coming months, just because I think there's a lot of value there that they'd probably really appreciate if they're into this sort of thing. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I really got out everything that I wanted to. It's time for me to go to bed. I have a busy day tomorrow for Camp Coffee, which if you don't know about that, go back and listen to the episode I recorded probably 3 months ago about the coffee cart that I started. But let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you for today and the ability to talk so openly on the podcast. Please just be with whoever's listening in whatever stage they are in right now of either life or pregnancy or even just preparing their body for pregnancy. I pray for just confidence in themselves and that they feel your comfort if they are going through a really difficult season right now regarding pregnancy or trying to conceive, and that you continue to bring them comfort and direction and just guide people in their life to uplift them, but also kind of help them to maybe find the answers that they're looking for. Again, just thank you for the opportunity to talk and connect with so many women through this podcast. I just ask that it provides value to whoever is listening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram, Bailey Seaton on everything else, and then my website and everything's listed below. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I'm opening up spots in September for blood work, HTMA, GI map, my preconception plan, and I'm only opening up, honestly, probably 3 more spots because they've already been filled by those on the wait list. So message me, get in contact with me if that's something you're interested in. I would love to set up a free call with you to talk through what that could look like and come up with a plan so you feel the best in your body. All right, so with that, I'll talk to you again next Friday. Bye.